The first allocation of C8s for Australia has been sold out, even with the excessive dealer markups that make them so expensive. We're told there are 250 C8s allocated to Australia in this first batch, and if you're not one of the customers with a confirmed order, you've apparently missed out. But why is C8 so expensive here? They start at about $62,000 in the US, but at about $162,000 Australian dollars here. I'll run through the 4 reasons the C8 costs so much in Australia and discuss whether there's any chance the price might drop anytime soon. There are 4 reasons why the C8 is so expensive in Australia, and I'll begin with a couple of obvious reasons that don't need much discussion. Firstly, the exchange rate between Australia and the US is low. Over the last 15 or so years, we've had equity with the US dollar a couple of times, and even had our dollar worth more than the US dollar during those highs. But at the moment, our dollar is hanging around the 73-cent mark, which makes a C8 worth US 82K, which ours is worth, about Australian 112K when you convert the dollars. But can we expect any improvement? Well, that's hard to say, because no one really knows. If we did know what the exchange rate was going to do, we'd all be millionaires. But some companies do predictions, and one of them, audtoday.com, predicts a drop in our dollar over the remainder of 2021, but a resurgence during 2022, predicting a peak of about 83 cents. If their prediction is accurate, the same car would drop from 112K Australian to 99K, plus the taxes, etc., of course. The second reason for the high price here is our old friend the luxury car tax, the LCT. This is the tax that was implemented to protect the local car industry, encouraging buyers of luxury cars to buy a top-end Holden Statesman Caprice or a Ford LTD, which were around at that time. With the demise of the Australian car manufacturing industry, it remains in law as a blatant tax grab. But is there any hope of a reprise? Surprisingly, the answer is yes. In Australia's negotiations with the European Union on a free trade agreement, the Europeans are adamant the LCT must be dropped before the deal can be done because of the effect this has on the price of European cars in Australia. Apparently these negotiations were proceeding well until the discussions were disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic. So there may be some hope of the LCT being dropped. In the case of the entry-level Aussie C8, the LCT accounts for about $20,000 of the price. If this was indeed dropped, the base level car would drop from the current RRP of $145K to $125K, a significant price drop. The end of the LCT isn't a done deal yet, but it does leave some reason for hope. Now let's get into the 2 more interesting reasons for the high price of the Australian C8. My third reason for the high price is the dealer markups, the extra price added to the RRP. They're able to do this because the cars are rare and there are people who will pay the high price just to get their hands on a C8 as soon as possible. It's a bit like an auction, in fact, where the car goes to the highest bidder. It's obvious with this first allocation of 250 cars, there are plenty of people who will pay this high price. But how long will this demand last? How many buyers are out there who will pay this inflated price? Will the don't care how much buyers be gone after this first 250 cars are sold? Or will it take 500 or more? You wouldn't think there would still be people around willing to pay $20K over the RRP after that many were sold. There may be even more C8s than that if the number of the production line supply issues are over and done with. You would at that stage think the initial sales rush would be over and the cars would drop back to their RRP. So there's the big question. How many C8s will it take to drop the demand back to match the supply? That's an interesting one, because that's when the dealers will be pushing for sales by giving good deals. And I really hope it won't be too long. As an example, if you look at the right-hand drive Ford Mustang sales over the last few years, you'll see there was an initial rush with sales peaking in the first year of 2017. You just couldn't get one, so people paid more. But sales have now fallen by 68%, which happened over the next 3 years, because most of the people who really wanted a Mustang had already bought it. I remember too at Holden when the new Monaro was released. After a big rush at first, those who wanted a Monaro had a Monaro, and the sales slowed. Of course, the C8 is a once-in-a-lifetime product, so it won't exactly emulate the Monaro or Mustang, but this same principle should hold true. You should also know the supply of C8s is severely limited in the US due to the parts supply issues. The most outrageous case I've read about is a dealer in Florida offering a base Stingray, the one that we hear about that sells for around US 60k. He's selling it for $161k, which is a massive $99,000 over the sticker price. So we aren't the only ones being done over by the dealers. But as I said last time, manufacturers can't tell the dealers what they must sell the car for. But I can assure you that GMSV aren't happy about this situation here in Australia. Finally, the fourth reason for the high price of C8 in Australia is the base model we buy in Australia is optioned up over the US base model. So why would GM not sell a US base car in Australia? That reason is very straightforward. GM is a commercial enterprise with shareholders to answer to, and their primary role is to make money for these shareholders. In any car lineup, regardless of the brand, the base model is introduced as a hook to get the buyer in the door. The real profit comes from optioning the car up or moving the buyer up to the next trim or performance level. The following aren't the real numbers, but I've made them up to illustrate my point. Let's say a base US C8 costs 60k and it returns a profit of 10k. So let's add 20k worth of options to the car. The extra profit from these options may very well add up to an additional 10k of profit, doubling the profit of the sale. The options don't cost GM anywhere as near as much as you might think they do. The profit in selling cars is in selling the upmarket versions of the car. GM has gone to the trouble of designing the C8 in right-hand drive as well as left-hand drive, and they won't sell anywhere near as many right-hand drives, but they still need to make a profit on them. So let's talk about the car we get here. If you go to the trouble of specifying the car we get here on the US website C8 Builder, you'll find our car costs about $20,000 US more than their base car. The trouble is when the car gets here and is subject to the exchange rate, the GST and the LCT, that US 20k turns into just on Australian 40k. So there's an extra $40,000 on the cost of our base car. Then the big question is, will we ever see a real base C8 here, the same as the US one? It may possibly happen. As I said previously, a time will come when those who want a C8 and can afford $160,000 or more will have bought one. So how will they continue to sell more cars? They can introduce the Z06, for instance, but that will only sell to the top end of town. So how about bringing in a 1LT Corvette without Z1, etc., etc.? This would drop the price by something like $40,000, as I mentioned above. This would give us a starting price of somewhere around 105 to 110,000 Australian dollars, plus on roads, of course. That would certainly bring in a new bunch of C8 buyers. But GM may not want to do this for various strategic reasons. They may not want to set the bar that low when they can sell plenty of cars at the higher price. They don't want to destroy their price. But who knows? It may just happen in a few years. Vet Talk. Today I want to talk to you about a new Australian Corvette website. I do a lot of work on it, but I don't own it. It's kind of owned by the Corvette clubs of Australia. It's just starting up, so you'll see it in its infancy. It's aimed at becoming a one-stop shop for everything Corvette. News stories, videos, cars and parts for sale, a newsfeed page, and a Corvette information section that's being filled up with useful information. There's still a forum to be added and an events calendar as well. I don't need to tell you too many details about it, because all you've got to do is click on the link in the comments section under this video, or stick corvettesaustralia.com in your browser and take a look. There are regular new posts so you can keep up with the Corvette news, with an emphasis on Australian and right-hand drive news. We'd love to see more comments added to the posts. You YouTube watchers are good at that, so man your keyboards and tell us what you think. There's also a free Corvettes and parts marketplace. You can send your ads in electronically, so give that a go if you've got anything for sale. I hope you like the website and that you become a regular visitor. Thanks for watching the video. As usual, leave your comments below because I really like to read them and I think all the viewers do as well. So keep them coming in. The news keeps rolling in on the C8 with the Australian pricing and availability a hot topic of discussion. So keep watching my videos for the latest news as it happens. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, and to make sure you don't miss any of my posts, hit the subscribe button. To be alerted by email of a new video posting, hit the bell icon as well. But for now, keep on vetting, and I hope to see you again real soon.